Yandy had just dropped a bombshell that sent shockwaves throughout the love and hip-hop Atlanta universe. It wasn't just the usual drama unfolding, this time, it was personal. The secret texts between Mendeecees and Erica Mena had been exposed, and they were linked to Scrappy's much-anticipated baby announcement. Fans were left stunned, as behind the public celebration, alliances were shifting, and the cast's loyalties were being questioned in real time. The whispers, the emojis, the cryptic messages, they all hinted at something much deeper, something far more complex than anyone could have expected. The drama began when a leaked screenshot surfaced, showing a series of late-night confessions and frantic apologies between Mendeecees and Erica. The revelation was explosive. Yandy, clutching her phone like a lifeline, stormed into the green room. Her heart pounded in her chest, a mix of fury and disbelief clouding her thoughts. Just hours before, the cast had come together to celebrate Scrappy's new baby news. The room filled with joy, laughter, and congratulations. But now, everything had shifted in an instant. Silence replaced the celebration as Yandy held up the glowing screen, accusing eyes locked on Mendeecees, demanding answers. The leaked text messages, filled with hidden urgency and secrecy, flickered on her phone like neon signs of betrayal. Mendeecees froze in the doorway, his face a mix of guilt and panic. His usual swagger was nowhere to be found. He opened his mouth to speak, but Yandy cut him off, her finger trembling as she scrolled through the damning messages. "Explain this," she snapped, her voice laced with anger as she pointed at the texts. At the top of the chain was Erica's name, followed by heartfelt apologies, a confession that they hadn't wanted the situation to come out, but it had. Mendeecees responded with words that stung, "I didn't want anyone to know." The room was still, the tension palpable as everyone waited for Mendeecees to explain. The air was thick with discomfort. The family was torn apart, caught in a battle between loyalty to a father figure and the raw emotion of betrayal. Even Scrappy, still basking in the joy of announcing his baby news, stood awkwardly by the craft table, confused by the sudden tension. His moment of joy was overshadowed by this new drama, and it was clear that the entire cast was now divided. Tasha K, ever the opportunist, stood off to the side, her phone raised, recording every second. She knew this moment would be her goldmine, the kind of scandal that would keep her audience glued to their screens. "You don't want to miss this," she murmured to her crew, her voice dripping with excitement as she broadcasted Mendeecees' discomfort to the world. Social media erupted. Hashtags like #Mendeecees Textgate and #Erica Mena Conspiracy began trending, with fans diving deep into the leaked screenshot. Some speculated that Erica had manipulated Mendeecees, suggesting that she had a plan to use him for a comeback storyline. Others defended Yandy, saying she had every right to be upset, that what Mendeecees had done was a breach of trust, no matter how innocent the conversations had seemed. Whispers began to circulate that Erica's involvement had been motivated by jealousy, that Scrappy's baby announcement had taken the spotlight away from her, and she had to do something about it. Behind the scenes, the producers exchanged glances, their faces betraying a mix of excitement and caution. This was exactly the kind of scandal they thrived on. Drama was the lifeblood of reality TV, and this situation had it all: betrayal, secrecy, and broken friendships. It was the kind of storyline that would keep fans watching, their eyes glued to the screen, eager to see how it would all unfold. As the tension mounted, Yandy's frustration boiled over. She couldn't contain the rush of emotions that flooded her. Rashida, who had weathered her own public betrayals, approached cautiously, placing a gentle hand on Yandy's shoulder. "Take a breath," she suggested softly, her voice calm, but firm. "We need to hear his side, too." But Yandy, her eyes still burning with anger, shook her head. "I've heard enough," she whispered, the words barely audible over the hum of tension that filled the room. "This feels like a knife in the back." The room fell silent. The cast was divided, each person caught in their own feelings of betrayal, loyalty, and confusion. The fans, too, had picked their sides. On social media, some supported Yandy, applauding her for confronting Mendeecees and demanding the truth. Others stood by Mendeecees, giving him the benefit of the doubt, claiming that his intentions were not malicious. But the damage had been done, and there was no turning back now. Mendeecees, still shaken, retreated to the makeup trailer, where he sank onto a stool, his body heavy with guilt. His usual confident demeanor had faded, replaced by a deep internal conflict. His phone lay on the counter, its notification light flickering with unread messages from Erica. With trembling hands, he reached for his phone and tapped one of the messages, his heart racing. "I thought you understood why I needed to talk to you," Erica's message read. "It wasn't because I don't love you. I just needed to figure this out." Each word from Erica felt like another weight added to his already burdened heart. The more he read, the more the guilt gnawed at him. Had he betrayed Yandy? Had he done something that he couldn't undo? The question seemed to hang in the air, unanswered, as the weight of betrayal pressed heavily on his chest back in the green room. Yandy paced in frustration, her mind racing with thoughts of her relationship with Mendeecees. Late-night calls, intimate moments they had shared, now all tainted by this hidden drama. Her assistant hovered nearby, watching her closely, a deep worry etched on her face. "Do you want me to call him?" she asked gently, her voice laced with concern. Yandy stopped pacing, her finger hovering over the screen of her phone. After a long pause, she shook her head. "No," she said finally, her voice raw with emotion. "I want him here. I need him to say it to my face." The family was torn. Some urged Yandy to seek dialogue, to hear Mendeecees' side of the story, while others whispered that the damage was done, and there was nothing left to fix. Meanwhile, Erica, standing at a distance, watched the situation unfold. Her face was unreadable, a mask of calm as she braced for the inevitable confrontation. She had always insisted that her friendship with Mendeecees was innocent, that it was just about shared history and mutual respect. But now, with the evidence laid bare, her explanations felt hollow, her denials unconvincing. The truth, it seemed, was far more complicated than anyone had anticipated. The confrontation reached a boiling point when Mendeecees finally emerged from the trailer. His cheeks were flushed with shame, his eyes red, as if he had been holding back tears for far too long. He stepped into the room, his usual confident stride replaced by a hesitant shuffle. The silence in the room was deafening, and every pair of eyes was on him. Yandy stood there, her arms crossed tightly over her chest, her eyes piercing into him like a blade. She was no longer the woman who had celebrated Scrappy's baby announcement with joy just hours ago. Now, she was a woman scorned, holding the evidence of betrayal in the palm of her hand. Mendeecees' gaze darted nervously between Yandy and Erica. The weight of the moment seemed to crush him from all sides. The once unbreakable bond he shared with Yandy now hung by a fragile thread, and the whole world was watching. The room seemed to shrink around them, the tension so thick it was almost suffocating. Yandy, her voice trembling but resolute, broke the silence. "I never thought I'd have to say this, but you lied to me. You hid this from me. And now, you expect me to just forgive you?" Her words were sharp, each one cutting deeper than the last. "Tell me, Mendeecees, why didn't you just tell me the truth? Why did you feel the need to keep it from me?" Mendeecees opened his mouth to speak, but no words came out. He felt the sting of Yandy's accusation deep in his chest. He wasn't prepared for this, wasn't prepared for her to confront him like this, with all the raw pain and fury that she was carrying. "I never wanted to hurt you," he said finally, his voice barely above a whisper. He stepped toward her, his hands trembling at his sides. "I thought we could handle this on our own. I didn't want the whole world to know, not yet, not like this." His words were desperate, a mixture of guilt and regret pouring out of him. "Erica and we were just talking. We were trying to figure out how to handle the media, the fallout from Scrappy's baby news." He glanced at Erica, who was standing a few feet away, her expression unreadable. "You know how these things go. It was just supposed to be a small thing, something to manage behind the scenes." Yandy's eyes narrowed, her heart pounding in her chest. "A small thing," she echoed, her voice rising with disbelief. "You call this a small thing? You think hiding something like this is no big deal?" She shook her head, her breath quickening. "You think I wouldn't find out? That you could keep me in the dark while you're having these secret conversations with Erica?" Her words hit Mendeecees like a physical blow, and he flinched. "I didn't mean for it to get this far," he said, his voice thick with regret. "I was trying to protect you, Yandy. I didn't want you to be hurt by all the drama. But now, I see how much damage I've done." His eyes met hers, filled with a mixture of remorse and confusion. "I never meant to hurt you. I swear." But Yandy wasn't ready to forgive him. "Not yet. You don't get it, do you?" she said, her voice quieter now, but the pain still evident in her words. "It's not about protecting me. It's about honesty. About trust. You broke that trust, Mendeecees. You kept me in the dark while you were working behind my back." Her hands clenched into fists at her sides, her frustration palpable. "I thought we were past this. I thought we were stronger than this." Mendeecees stepped closer, his voice pleading. "Yandy, please, let me explain. I didn't want to hide it from you forever. I didn't know how to tell you. And I thought it would be better if we handled it quietly. You know how these things can blow up." He paused, searching her face for any sign of forgiveness. "I never wanted to hurt you." But Yandy shook her head, tears welling up in her eyes. "You don't get it. You never even gave me the chance to understand. You just kept me in the dark. And now, I'm the last to know about something that affects both of us. You didn't even trust me enough to share it with me." Her voice cracked, and the tears she had been holding back began to fall. "You kept me in the dark, Mendeecees. You." Shut me out when I needed to be in the loop the most. Mendeecees stood there, speechless, his heart heavy with guilt. He had never seen Yandy so broken, so vulnerable, and it was a sight he wasn't prepared for. He reached for her, his hand trembling as he gently touched her arm. "I'm sorry, Yandy," he whispered. "I never meant for it to go this far. I should have told you, I should have trusted you. But I didn't. And now, I have to live with the consequences." Yandy took a step back, wiping away the tears that had fallen. "I don't know if I can forgive you for this," she said softly. "Not yet. I need time." The silence between them stretched out, filled only by the sound of Yandy's shaky breaths and Mendeecees' quiet apologies. Erica, who had been standing at the edge of the confrontation, now stepped forward. She had watched the exchange between Yandy and Mendeecees with a mixture of guilt and concern. She had never meant for things to get this complicated, but now she found herself in the middle of a mess that was bigger than she ever anticipated. "Yandy," Erica said, her voice steady but tinged with emotion. "I never wanted this to hurt you. I never meant to come between you and Mendeecees. I see now that secrecy only causes pain. I should have been more open, and I'm sorry. But you need to understand, this wasn't about betraying you. It was about trying to handle everything behind the scenes, out of respect for you both." Yandy turned to face Erica, her eyes red from crying. "Respect," she repeated, her voice thick with disbelief. "You call this respect? You think you can just come in and manipulate situations without thinking about how it might affect others? You think this is what Mendeecees needs? To hide things from me and then make excuses when it all blows up?" Erica's face softened, and she took a step forward. "I understand why you're upset," she said quietly. "But you need to hear me out. Mendeecees and we've been friends for a long time. And I thought that by keeping things quiet, we could avoid drama. I never meant to hurt you, Yandy. I swear." Yandy looked at Erica for a long moment, her heart torn between anger and the desire to believe her. But she couldn't shake the feeling of betrayal, the weight of being kept in the dark about something that had affected their entire lives. She looked back at Mendeecees, whose eyes were filled with regret. The man she had once trusted, the man she had loved, was he really the same man standing before her now? "I don't know what to believe anymore," Yandy whispered, more to herself than anyone else. "You both lied to me. You both kept secrets. And now, I'm left here trying to figure out how to pick up the pieces." The room was quiet again, the only sound the soft hum of the studio lights above them. The family, once united, now stood divided, each member struggling to come to terms with the betrayal they had witnessed. The cast was torn between supporting Yandy, the woman who had been hurt, and Mendeecees, who had become the target of her anger. Tasha K, ever the opportunist, saw an opening. She raised her phone, recording every single word, every single gesture. The camera captured the raw emotion in the room, the pain, the guilt, and the fragile hope that things could be mended. Fans watching live could feel the tension building, the drama unfolding in real time. They were glued to their screens, speculating on what would happen next, who would break, and whether there could be a resolution. Erica stepped back, waiting for Yandy to process her words. She had hoped that by being vulnerable, Yandy might see that she wasn't the enemy here. But the truth was, Erica was as hurt as Yandy. She never intended for it to get this far, never imagined that the secrecy would spiral into something so messy. Yet now, she felt the weight of her role in this tangled web. Finally, Mendeecees reached out, his hand shaking as he placed it gently on Yandy's arm. "Please, just give me a chance to make it right," he pleaded softly. "I'll do anything. I know I messed up, but we can fix this. I'll work on regaining your trust. It's all I can offer right now." Yandy looked at him, her expression a mixture of pain and disbelief. "I don't know if that's enough," she whispered, her voice cracking. "Trust isn't something that can just be fixed with words, Mendeecees. It takes time. It takes honesty." She glanced back at Erica, the weight of everything sinking in. "And right now, I don't know where either of you stand with me." The silence stretched out longer, each second feeling like an eternity. Mendeecees and Erica exchanged glances, both waiting for Yandy to speak again, to give them a path forward. Yandy slowly took a step back, her heart racing as she tried to process everything she had just learned. It wasn't just the betrayal, it was the years of history they had shared, the trust that had been broken in the most unexpected of ways. She knew she needed space, time to heal. And she needed to figure out what came next. The room was thick with tension as Yandy, Mendeecees, and Erica stood at the center of the storm they had created. It was clear that the confrontation had only just begun. Outside the studio doors, the world continued to buzz with whispers and rumors, but inside, it was an entirely different story. The air was heavy with unspoken words, emotions that couldn't be expressed in a single conversation, and the aftermath of a betrayal that had shaken the very foundation of what they thought they knew about each other. Scrappy who had been caught in the middle of this mess despite being the one who had announced the joy of his newborn, paced back and forth just outside the green room. His face was pale, brows furrowed in confusion, his mind struggling to reconcile the happiness of his announcement with the chaos that had followed. He had returned from a moment of celebration, only to find the entire crew on edge. The energy in the room completely shifted. He stared at his phone, reading the latest text messages that pinged from his group chat. "Y'all are crazy," he muttered to himself, frustration lacing his words. "Can someone fill me in?" he typed, pressing send without a second thought. The messages from both Erica and Yandy flooded in, one pleading for calm, the other revealing the underlying betrayal that had now come to light. Scrappy ran a hand through his hair, trying to make sense of everything. He knew Mendeecees and Erica were close, but the idea that this personal drama had taken precedence over his big news was too much for him to grasp. He needed answers, but the problem was that none of the answers made sense. His joy at becoming a father had turned into a backdrop to a scandal he had no part in creating. Meanwhile, inside the green room, the energy had shifted. The tension was unbearable as Mendeecees, still standing at the center of the room, caught the look in Yandy's eyes. There was a sadness there, a deep, raw hurt that he couldn't deny. He had never seen her like this before, and it shattered him in ways he wasn't prepared for. His body was tense, his chest tight with the weight of everything that had been said, everything that had been exposed. Tasha K, ever the opportunist, stood off to the side, her phone raised, recording every moment. Her audience was devouring every word, every moment, as the drama unfolded. "This isn't just drama," she whispered into her camera, voice dripping with intrigue. "This is betrayal. Loyalty is on the line, and we're all watching it unravel right before our eyes." Her commentary echoed through the set, adding fuel to the fire. The fans on social media were ravenous for the details, dissecting every frame, every gesture, and every word. Back inside, Erica, who had been largely silent during the latter half of the confrontation, now stepped forward again. Her gaze shifted between Yandy and Mendeecees, her mind racing with everything that had happened. The woman who had once been the center of drama, now standing here, trying to be the voice of reason, seemed out of place. But she had learned, perhaps too late, that some things just couldn't be hidden. "Yandy," Erica started, her voice calm but heavy with emotion. "I know this looks bad, but it wasn't like that. I wasn't trying to come between you two. I've known Mendeecees for a long time, and I thought I was just helping him out. But I see now how this looks, and I get why you're hurt." Yandy didn't respond immediately, her mind swirling with 1,000 thoughts. She wanted to believe Erica, but how could she? How could she believe anything now when everything she thought she knew had been turned upside down? Yandy's gaze shifted toward Mendeecees, who stood there, his face a mixture of guilt and regret. She could feel his eyes on her, and it made her skin crawl. Was he truly sorry, or was this just another round of empty apologies? "You're sorry?" Yandy's voice was soft, barely a whisper, but the emotion behind it was unmistakable. "You're sorry for what? For hiding this from me? For keeping me in the dark about something that should have been shared with me?" Her voice cracked, and she quickly wiped away a tear that had escaped. "How do I even begin to trust you again?" Mendeecees took a hesitant step forward, but Erica quickly placed a hand on his arm, stopping him in his tracks. The last thing Yandy needed right now was more words from either of them. She needed answers, she needed honesty, and right now, neither of them could give that to her. The silence was broken by a voice from the doorway. Rashida, who had been observing the entire scene from the sidelines, stepped into the room. Her face was a mixture of concern and wisdom, and she had clearly seen enough drama in her time to know when things were about to get worse. "Yandy, let's take a step back," Rashida said gently, her voice laced with understanding. "This isn't easy. I know. But you've got to hear him out, at least, before you make any decisions." Yandy turned to face her, her eyes filled with emotion. "I don't know if I can," she said quietly, her voice wavering. "I don't know if I can forgive him. I don't know if I can trust him again." Rashida gave her a small, empathetic smile. "Forgiveness isn't something you give just because someone asks for it, Yandy," she said softly. "It's something you give because you want to move forward. But right now, it's about getting the truth. You can't fix this without it. And maybe, just maybe, you'll find that truth is the first step in rebuilding what you had." Yandy looked at her, her gaze unwavering. "What if the truth isn't enough? What if this betrayal is too much to overcome?" She whispered. Rashida shook her head, her expression firm. "Then you walk away. But don't make any decisions until you've got the full picture. You deserve that much." The room fell silent again, the weight of Rashida's words hanging heavily in the air. Mendeecees stood motionless, his guilt now a tangible thing that clung to him like a second skin. Erica, still standing by his side, kept her gaze fixed on Yandy, hoping for some sign that she would listen. That they would be able to resolve this. But she knew deep down that things were not going to be easy. As the silence stretched on, Yandy took a deep breath and looked at Mendeecees one last time. Her heart ached, but there was something inside her, a flicker of hope, that told her that maybe, just maybe, there was a way to move forward. But only if the truth was laid bare. "I'm not going to forgive you right now," she said softly, looking at Mendeecees. "I need time. I need to think. But I will listen. I will hear you out. Just know this is the last chance. The last one." With that, she turned, her heels clicking sharply against the floor as she walked out of the room. The door clicked shut behind her, leaving Mendeecees and Erica standing in the center of the storm they had created. Scrappy, still standing outside, watched the door as it closed. He was confused, hurt, and conflicted. He had just wanted to celebrate his baby's arrival, but now it seemed like everything around him was falling apart. His phone buzzed again, and this time, he saw a message from Rashida, "We need to talk." He sighed, rubbing his forehead, knowing that this situation wasn't going to resolve itself anytime soon. He was caught in the middle of a family feud, one that he didn't want to be a part of but now had no choice but to confront. Back in the studio, Tasha K's camera kept rolling, capturing every moment, every reaction, every glance exchanged. The world was watching, and nothing, it seemed, would ever be the same again. The drama wasn't over, it was just beginning.